Hi everyone, I am Dr. Anjani Devi, Associate Professor, Department of Biotechnology, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research. I am taking up the course Enzyme Technology for third year BTech Biotech students. In today's class, we are going to deal with chemical nature of enzymes. As you know pretty well that enzymes are biocatalysts, that means they will be guiding the reactions that are taking place within a living organism. These enzymes will accelerate the rate of reactions by a factor of more than 10 to the power of 6 times or more. These enzymes will have high molecular weight. The weight may range from 10,000 to 20 lakh Daltons. It will be having 16% of nitrogen by its weight. These enzymes are water-soluble compounds. They are thermolabile as well as colloidal in nature. These enzymes are proteinaceous in nature. Most of the enzymes are proteinaceous in nature, but some of the enzymes are non-proteinaceous in nature. The examples for those enzymes which are non-proteinaceous in nature are catalytic RNA. As we are telling that enzymes are proteinaceous in nature, then what is a protein? Protein is a polymer made up of building blocks called as amino acids. Then what is an amino acid and how many different types of amino acids are present? In a body, nearly 20 different types of amino acids are present. Each amino acid will be containing central carbon moiety. Along with that, it will be attached with hydrogen group, R group, a COOH group and an amino group. This R group is denoted by the side chain. The side chain is very much essential for reactivity of these amino acids. How this protein is formed? A number of amino acids will be combining through peptide bonds in order to form a protein. How a peptide bond is formed? Amino group of one amino acid will be binding with carboxylic group of another amino acid to form a peptide bond. During this peptide bond formation, there is release of water molecules. With this brief introduction about chemical nature of enzyme, will move towards sites of enzyme synthesis, where these enzymes are synthesized. Generally, these enzymes are proteins and they are synthesized by ribozymes attached to rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the information that is required for synthesis of these enzymes is carried by the DNA. Amino acids are bounded together to form specific enzyme according to the DNA's code. Now, we'll know about what are the different types of enzymes. Depending upon the location of their synthesis as well as their action, there are two different types of enzymes. One is intracellular enzyme and another is extracellular enzymes. What is intracellular enzyme? What is extracellular enzyme? You know pretty well that the enzymes are synthesized within the cell. Sometimes these enzymes after synthesis they will be retained within the cell. Sometimes they are secreted outside the cell. The enzymes which are synthesized within the cell and their action is also present within the cell. That sort of enzymes are called as intracellular enzymes. Examples of intracellular enzymes are DNA polymerases, RNA polymerases, ATP synthetases, etc. Coming to the extracellular enzymes, they are synthesized within the cell but secreted out of the cell externally to work. Examples of this kind are trypsin, chymotrypsin, lipases. These enzymes are synthesized in pancreas, but after they synthesis, they are released into small intestine. In the small intestine, they will be mixed up with the food material and they will be carrying out digestion function. Now, we'll look into structure of enzyme. Enzyme means it is a hollow enzyme. Then, what is a hollow enzyme? A hollow enzyme contains two parts. First part is apoenzyme and the second part is cofactor. Apoenzyme is the proteinaceous part of the enzyme, whereas cofactor is the non-proteinaceous part of the enzyme. Then, what is the activity? Apoenzyme alone can't be active. Once this cofactor comes and binds with the apoenzyme, then only it will be forming a holoenzyme, and this holoenzyme is active. That means they can catalyze a reaction. And there are different types of cofactors. For example, there are three different types. The first type is coenzyme, second type is prosthetic group, and the third type is metal ion activator. What is a coenzyme? It is a non-protein organic substance which is dialyzable and thermostable, but it is loosely attached to protein part of the enzyme. A protein part is nothing but apoenzyme of the enzyme. Now, what is a prosthetic group? A prosthetic group is an organic substance which is dialyzable and which is thermostable, but it is firmly attached to the protein, that is nothing but apoenzyme portion of the enzyme. The main difference between coenzyme and prosthetic group is depending upon their attachment. Now, the major difference between coenzyme and the prosthetic group lies is the coenzyme is loosely attached to the protein part, whereas prosthetic group is very firmly attached to the apoenzyme part of the enzyme. And the third type is nothing but the metal ion activator. These include Fe2+, Fe3+, K+, Cu2+, CO2+, etc. From the figure you can clearly understand what I have told you right now. Now, we'll continue with the structure of the enzyme. For example, just think that this is an enzyme and this is a substrate. So, are you sure that when the substrate is coming and attached with the enzyme, will it is binding to the entire surface of the enzyme or only binding to the portion of the enzyme? Yes, the substrate is only binding to the certain portion of enzyme which is called as active site. And this active site contains two different sites. First one is the binding site and the second one is the catalytic site. If I am saying that substrate is coming and binding to the enzyme, it's nothing but substrate is coming and binding to the binding site of the active site of the enzyme. And this catalytic site is mainly meant for breaking down the substrate molecule. And what is the portion that this active site is occupying in the entire surface of the enzyme? It's only 10 to 15% of the total enzyme surface is occupied by active site. And this shape of the active site is depending upon the tertiary structure of the enzyme. That is nothing but enzyme is a protein. So it depends upon the tertiary structure of the protein. Moreover, if you go for a change in the structure of a protein, obviously there will be change in the structure of shape of the active site and the function of the enzyme will be very definitely. So, what are the different bonds that are responsible, that are involved in binding the substrate to the active site of an enzyme? They are electrostatic bonds, hydrogen bonds, van der Waals forces, and non-covalent bonds. And what are the properties that are essential for binding of substrate to an active site of an enzyme? It's nothing but complementarity and affinity, mostly complementarity and affinity. Along with that, we can see the flexibility as well as the non-covalent forces. To maintain the definite three-dimensional structure, protein relies on these various sorts of interactions that are involved in between these amino acid residues. If you think about the protein, a protein will be having its tertiary structure and the structure will be in contact in the strict shape until and unless it is present within its pH and temperature. If you place a protein under drastic environmental condition, then what will happen? The protein may lose its structure. The primary structure will be available, or the rest of the bonds will be broken down. That is nothing but denaturation. That means if a protein is subjected to drastic environmental conditions, the protein will be undergoing denaturation. Sometimes if again you give the favorable conditions to the protein, It will be regaining its structure called as renaturation. Just I want you to look into this video in order to have a clear-cut idea about what I have told you until now.
Enzymes are proteins that speed up chemical reactions in the cell. A special region on the enzyme, called the active site, has a shape that fits with specific substrate molecules. An enzyme works by binding to one or more specific molecules called reactants or substrates. Binding occurs at the active site. The enzyme and substrates form an enzyme-substrate complex. The interactions between the substrates and the enzyme stresses or weakens some of the chemical bonds in the substrates. These stresses encourage a link between the two substrates, leading to the formation of a different molecule. As a result of the chemical interactions within the active site, a new product is formed. The product is released from the active site. The enzyme assumes its original shape and is free to work again. Although this reaction has specifically illustrated the formation of a single product from two substrate molecules, other enzymes catalyze the formation of two products from a single substrate.
Now, we'll look into the most important aspect of enzyme, which is nothing but specificity of enzymes. Specificity is one of the most important properties of an enzyme. And because of this property, these enzymes are used as diagnostic as well as the research tools. Then, what's the meaning of specificity? Specificity is the ability of that enzyme to choose exact substrate. This is nothing but molecular recognition mechanism. And specificity of an enzyme depends upon the complementarity, shape, charge, hydrophobic or hydrophilic characteristics and arrangement of various amino acids in the active site of an enzyme. There are four distinct types of specificity. The first one is nothing but absolute specificity. The enzymes which catalyzes only one sort of reaction, they comes under absolute specificity. Example, glucokinases and urease. Glucokinase acts on that particular reaction where the glucose is converted into glucose 6-phosphate. Coming to the second group is nothing but second type of specificity, which is nothing but group specificity. Here, the enzyme will act upon only one molecule that have specific functional group, such as amino, phosphate, and methyl groups. Examples of the enzymes which belongs to this group specificity are hexokinases. They catalyze phosphorylation of glucose, galactose, and mannoses. Another example is pepsin. That pepsin will hydrolyze only that central peptide bond which is attached with aromatic amino acids. And the third type of specificity is nothing but linkage specificity or bond specificity. Here, the enzymes will act on particular type of chemical bond regardless of the rest of the molecular structure. Example of the enzyme belonging to such specificity is nothing but amylases, lipases. These amylases will act only upon alpha-1,4 glucosidic bonds that are available in starch, dextrins, etc. Whereas these lipases will be hydrolyzing ester bonds that are present in different triglycerides. And the fourth type of specificity is nothing but stereochemical specificity. Here, the enzymes will act on the particular steric or optical isomers. Examples are L-amino acid oxidases and alpha glycosidases. Here, L-amino acid oxidases will act upon only L-amino acids, and alpha glucosidases will act only on alpha glycosidic bonds. Here, if you are thinking about specificity of enzymes, though enzymes exhibit great degree of specificity, cofactors may serve many apoenzymes. Now, we'll deal with nomenclature of enzyme. So, in order to refer to an enzyme, that enzyme should have a particular name. That's nothing but nomenclature of enzymes. Before a systematic way of nomenclature came into existence, these enzymes are normally referred by their tribal names. Example of such tribal name is nothing but pepsin, trypsin, renin, etc. By listening to this word like pepsin, you can't infer about the substrate on which this enzyme is acting, the reaction which is catalyzed by this reaction. You can't come out with this information. So, after this tribal names, a systematic way of naming came into existence. The enzymes are normally referred with the name of a substrate, and the and that substrate name ends with ASE. Example of that sort are lactases, maltases, cellulases, lipases, etc. For example, lactase is an enzyme which is acting upon the substrate lactose. Maltase is an enzyme acting upon the substrate maltose. By listening to these words, you can have an idea that these enzymes are acting upon a specific substrate. For example, maltose is acted upon by maltase. So, from the word maltase, you can get a conclusion that they will be acting upon maltoses. You can guess the substrate on which they are acting. Then came into the existence of systematic way of nomenclature given by International Union of Biochemistry. According to them, the systematic name should contain two parts. The first part should represent the substrate on which this enzyme is acting, and the second part is a type of the reaction which is catalyzed by this particular enzyme. The example for such nomenclature, the systematic way of nomenclature is lactate dehydrogenase. From the name you can get an idea that this lactate dehydrogenase is acting upon lactose, and dehydrogenase means these enzymes are catalyzing dehydrogenation reaction. That means you can get information like the substrate on which this enzyme is acting upon as well as the reaction which is catalyzed by this particular enzyme. Then this nomenclature was determined by Enzyme Commission in 1961. Each enzyme is described by a sequence of numbers preceded by EC. EC means Enzyme Commission. The number with EC is nothing but EC number, Enzyme Commission number. Here I am saying that the nomenclature of each enzyme contains four digits of numbers. And the first digit is representing the class to which that enzyme belongs. Second digit represents the subclass. Third digit represents the subclass. And the fourth digit represents the identity. It will give the identity of a particular enzyme within that subclass. So, coming to the classification of enzymes. All the enzymes are classified into 6 different classes. The first one is oxidoreductases. These enzymes are catalyzing redox reactions. That means these enzymes are carrying out transfer of electrons. That means the electrons are transferred from one substrate to another. These enzymes are catalyzing that transfer of electrons. Example of an enzyme that belongs to this oxidoreductases is nothing but alcohol dehydrogenases. Then coming to the second class of enzymes, that's nothing but transferases. These enzymes are involved in transferring of carbon, nitrogen or phosphorus containing groups. Example of an enzyme belonging to this class is nothing but hexokinases. The third group is hydrolases. These enzymes are involved in bond cleavage. This will be taking place by the addition of photomolecules. Examples are trypsin. Fourth class of enzymes are lyases. These enzymes are involved in cleavage of CC, CS and CN bonds, often to form double bond in the product. Examples are pyruvate decarboxylases. Fifth class of enzymes are isomerases. These enzymes are involved in formation of optical or geometric isomers. Examples are malate isomerase. The sixth class of enzymes are ligases. This group of enzymes are involved in hydrolysis of high energy phosphates to form new bonds. Examples are pyruvate carboxylase. So I'll give you a small tip so that you can remember the order of classes. It's nothing but just remember the word OTHLIL. OTHLIL. O represents oxidoreductases, T represents transferases, H represents hydrolases, L represents liases, I represents isomerases, and last L represents ligases. Recently, in 2018, a new class of enzymes have been added to the existing class of enzymes. The seventh class of enzymes are nothing but translocases. These enzymes are involved in catalyzing the translocation of hydrogen ions, inorganic cations and anions, amino acids, etc. Now, I'll just discuss. Until now, I have explained about various classes of enzymes. That means we have discussed about the first digit of EC number. Coming to the second digit of EC number, I have told you that the second digit represents a subclass of the main class. Here we are taking into example subclasses of oxidoreductases. Here, in the subclass, there are six different classes, six different categorizations. Okay, so the second digit of enzyme commission number in oxidoreductases, they refer to the molecule which is involved in electron donation. Here if I say that second number as 2, then you have to think that aldehydes or ketones are the electron donors. Now, I'll give you information about subclass, which represents the third digit of the EC number. There are 4 different categorizations in them. If I say that the third digit of EC number is number 3, then you have to say that you can understand that the electron acceptor is nothing but oxygen. Let me explain you by giving an example. Let us consider EC 1.2.3.4. Here, as you know that EC represents enzyme commission and the number 1 as the first digit represents the class oxidoreductases. The number 2 as the second digit represents the subclass of oxidoreductases, which means that the electron donor is aldehyde or keto group. Now coming to the third digit of this EC number, which is representing the subclass. Here the digit in the third place is nothing but number 3. From this number you can say that the electron acceptor is oxygen, and the last digit is number 4, which represents the specific, or it will be representing the serial number of that particular enzyme in the subclass. Let me explain you with another example. And what is the name of this EC enzyme with EC 1.2.3.4? It's nothing but oxalate, oxygen, oxidoreductases. Now, I'll explain you with another example. If you take another example, EC 1.1.1.1, this represents alcohol, NAD plus oxidoreductases. Here, the first digit represents that it belongs to the class oxidoreductases. The second digit represents that the electron donor is alcohol, and the third digit represents that electron acceptor is NAD plus, and the fourth digit represents their exact serial number within subclass of oxidoreductases. So, in the present session, I have covered various topics such as chemical nature of enzymes, synthesis and types of enzymes, structure of enzymes as well as the concept of active site. I've covered the specificity of enzyme as well as the classification of enzyme. You can go through these links for further information. Please work out these questions and assess yourself how much you have understood from today's class, as well as you can learn more if you do these questions. Thank you.